back to these same ideas over and over again, and I was listening to Kaiser report that was talking about like in our world how everything is becoming cheaper and becoming in terms of the cost of electricity or moving electrons around, which basically cryptocurrencies and distributed ledger uh, make it almost zero cost to move money around and have secure money. But we are forgetting another side of it is that despite all of that, there is still a network effect, which means, for example, people who have used Netflix or Facebook, they become kind of addicted or accustomed to it. So these companies, they acquire a valuation. All the valuation is not in the cost of servers or moving electrons around, but there is real valuation. It might be outrageous and very expensive at this market, but even if market crashes, they'll have they'll have some valuation, maybe 60% or so, which is still way higher than their expenses or their cost of servers. And if another company like Facebook came around and the same services and everything, it will still not be like Facebook, because Facebook has millions of fans. So there is a real dollar amount attached to having a culture, having a history, having fans, a network effect. Okay, that stuff is not gonna go away. So I want to correct myself when I was talking about FANG stocks. Well, I'm kind of become very radical in my views on deflation, but those views are partly correct. There are other things going on in society, and just because you can do something or you can manufacture something or you can dig out something out of the ground cheaper and cheaper doesn't mean that the values or the brands, they're gonna go away or become worthless. No, there are some Hollywood stars that beat me to a pulp. Well, I played in some movies, but hey, I'm now. Who was that guy? What's his name? Pitt. Anyhow, he plays a lot better movies, and he got more going for him. He's got better girlfriends than I ever did. So there is a reason behind the history and culture and all that. And I still give money to my ex, even though I don't want her anymore. But there is a history, and we still have a kid together. So all this other stuff goes on. What my views on deflation is just views that relate to commodities or services or products. I'm shy away from extending it to other stuff, but I think that there are some aspects of deflation that we need to look at. I was listening to Cliff High, and he was talking about something that I totally disagree with him, that there is the energy scarcity, okay? And then also at the same time he was talking about that the US government might collapse because the deep state is in trouble because they cannot do things secretly anymore. I think that's what I got of it. But I had a video about the death of secrecy in our world. There's so much so many ways of finding things out. We got WikiLeaks, and we got so many. There are so many leaks and so many different outlets that the deep state really needs a certain level of secrecy to function, and that secrecy is not really available in a digitally open society which cannot be rolled back. How are you going to roll back distributed ledgers, or how are you going to roll back information once it gets on the internet and zillions of computers have a copy of it? That's like a useless fight. But the title of this video is Myth of Scarcity, and I don't believe that there really is any kind of scarcity that we really need to sit and sorrow over, or the U.S. government or U.S. financial systems might totally collapse, but that has nothing to do with technology or what's out there. Other countries won't collapse, just these idiots. They borrowed I don't know how many trillions of dollars. I hear the number 16 trillion, but I was listening to USA Watchdog. They were saying that they owe $200 trillion in their different programs that haven't been funded. So I don't know, but they did a lot of very funny things with money, or with their money, and hey, what if the world dumps the dollar or the US treasuries? Is the whole civilization is going to come to an end just because this system is falling apart? Actually, the Western financial system is not the whole world. It's just a portion of it. It's a sizable portion, but that doesn't mean other countries are going to collapse too. And there are actually other forms of money that even here, where they can use cryptocurrency, they can use silver, they can use gold, they can go take a pan and go pan for gold. They become desperate enough. Well, let's see. If you have a bunch of food that you neglected, you didn't want to eat them, and then suddenly you lose a job, then hey, you might eat from the cans that you didn't think you would want them again, but hey, that's food and you're hungry, and are you gonna eat that, or are you gonna go hungry? There is a lot of resources here, and there is a lot of other forms of currency and wealth that what if the government collapsed, or what if the dollar collapsed, or what if the stock market collapsed? So what? So that's not the end of the world. But that's not what I want to talk about. I want to talk about that there is actually a lot of resources. There is very little scarcity in our world. Okay. For example, well, some countries, they want there to be scarcity, so they would be the only ones that can fulfill that scarcity. Like for example, Saudi Arabia floods the market with tons of oil and crashes the oil price. Then other oil producing nations, they go bust, or US oil producers, they go bankrupt. Then after about a year or two, the Saudis also cut back on production, and the price of oil jacks up, and then they are the only one that can provide that, because everybody else has been really crippled. But that's not really what is happening in actuality. Other countries, they're oil producing, and they produce at any price the Saudis can produce, or even better. And then when the price comes back, they'll be selling it at a high price. So it was just stupid losses that the Saudis forced other countries to incur, or they'll hire terrorists and go kill a bunch of people in Iran or in New York or whatever. They're just idiots. But that doesn't say anything about the scarcity. There is no oil scarcity, because there are many places in the world that you could dig the ground and find oil. In fact, there was a scientist, his name was Gould, and he went to places that had never had oil, and there were no indications of oil. For example, I think he went to places like Scandinavia, where they had solid stone layers or granite mountain, and he dug like a mile or so on the bottom. He found oil, but the oil wasn't a very good quality. Most places that produce oil, they don't go to digging a mile of granite to get to oil. There is like the ground that after a little bit of digging you can get oil. So just because it was the cost of rigs and all that, it wasn't the fact that there wasn't oil, but there is a great deal of oil. There's oil almost everywhere. I know, for example, when I was a kid, I was living in northern Iran, and there were places that they had discovered oil and also natural gas, but they had these caps that they had put on the ground on the well, because there was just so much oil being produced elsewhere. They didn't need this new oil field. So I think that like in Iran there are oil fields that the government and the people know that hey, there is oil here that we can get easily, but they don't want to flood the market, or they are already making or producing oil cheaper in southern part. Let's talk about I won't even talk about the Arab states, how much oil they have, Kuwait and Bahrain and Qatar, and it goes on and on. Let's talk about the form of energy like solar. It's just there's so much solar energy that's coming onto the planet. Like 1 day worth of solar energy exceeds of all the oil energy that we might ever dig out, or so I read somewhere. And there's nuclear energy. If you get desperate enough to you want a lot of energy, you can go nuclear. There is no scarcity. It is just you have to make sure that it's clean, or get rid of the radioactive material waste in a proper way. It just makes the cost a little higher, but hey, there is abundance of that kind of energy. And then there is hydro, there is thermal, geothermal, there is in fact there are some form of energies, electricity produced from just few feet below our feet. Is the temperature drops to like 57 degrees Fahrenheit. So if the temperature in a regular day is like 70 degrees, okay, so between 70 degrees and 57 is like 13 degrees Fahrenheit. And you could construct Carnot cycle and suck energy out of Earth. You don't need to invent zero vacuum energy. I think that there is just so much abundance of energy, and the technology that you need to, for example, the one I told you about, the difference between the temperature of ground temperature and just the air above. You just need not very complex machinery, It's just if you have some input to get the cycle going, you can get energy out of that, or from wind. There's a lot of wind energy, and I just don't believe this myth Cliff High was talking about. There is so much currency. Like there's so many different cryptocurrencies. They all a lot of them are like Bitcoin, and they're much cheaper. And you can transact business with them, or buy them and hold them. Hopefully next year they'll be worth more. I did some of that. There is a lot of silver. Actually, silver is pretty abundant. Just like copper is a pretty abundant element in the crust of the earth. In fact, I saw a documentary that they had silver mines in Utah that closed some of them down because there wasn't demand. I think the shortage of silver is a kind of like a little lie. It's like an oil lie. If the price of silver shuts up, then a lot of mines will go into production, and then will come back down again. Because when the silver was in its heyday, like in Calico, there were a lot of mining for silver, and then those mines shut down because the price of silver collapsed because there was so much silver. In fact, there is a lot of silver in South America. There's a lot of silver in Mexico. I don't know. The financial system in the United States has done so many stupid things that they might collapse, and then the price of silver will shut upward to like, I don't know, 100 or 200. But then because silver is abundant like copper, then all kinds of mines will go into operation, then it will come back down. That's not a natural price for silver, but I don't know. But the follies of the bankers might be so much that the price might really shut up and stay up. Who knows? But there is other forms of currency, silver being one of them. It will require a little trouble to get out of the ground, but hey, it's a distinct. I think that other commodities like food stuff, like cost of purifying water from seawater, clothes, cotton, where all the shirts are made. These commodities, the prices have not been going up, have been going down, because the technology is getting better, and even if there is devaluation of dollar, in terms of the devalued dollar, the cost of these commodities have been collapsing, or coming down. And that means that in real terms, if you were measuring it in terms of grams of gold, then the prices of oil has pretty much stayed constant. The price of other commodities, I think they've been sliding down. Or I'm thinking the price of oil is also sliding, or has slid down compared to gold grams. I just don't think that this myth there is really much factual data behind. It's just kind of like a hysteria the analysts they go through. What the U.S. stock market and other forms of currency like treasuries or dollar, they might collapse because they have hyped it up beyond something that would be natural. their natural value. For example, the Fed comes in and buys all these stocks and jacks up their price, but they probably have a natural or intrinsic dollar value, and if the Fed didn't do that, they would probably be like worth half as much, but then the market will be stable. It will not be so fucked up. Suddenly drop 1,000, 2,000 points. It would be more natural. Like you buy silver at a natural price, not suppressed, of like 30, 40 bucks. But it wouldn't really shut up to like 200 because it would be natural price dependent on the demand and the cost of digging it out of the ground plus some valuation. There's cost of transporting depending on the industrial need. So the Fed and the financial system have kind of screwed themselves over. They have like, it's like a guy who's just shut himself up with instead of one max dose of heroin, two maxes, and he's afraid that he might he might overdose. Those fears are natural, but it's not really reality of this commodity. It's just like the Saudis destroyed the price of oil by flooding the market. Well, I would say the natural price for oil was like 90, 100 bucks. Yeah, 80 is fair, going all the way to 100. They just did themselves in and they did other people in because they're stupid Wahhabis. And but you can see the price of oil is coming up. It's going to become what it probably is, the intrinsic value of it. So basically, I think that there is no scarcity in commodities or stuff that we really need, but the financial system is screwed up, and they might go under because they have issued so much credit, and then they use the credit to start wars or ruin other countries or entitlement programs that they don't know if they can afford it or not. They're hoping, and then like Saudis, they just did something artificial, and they did themselves in too because now they are issuing debt to pay for their bills. If they had not done all these stupid things that flood the market and crash the price of oil, then the natural income that was really due them would be enough or more than enough to pay their bills or do what they wanted to do. I don't know, some of this thinking is a little bit exotic, but I think somebody who studies these markets kind of will figure it out. I think letting the free market decides the price of stuff is the better way to go than these artificial manipulations. And then if you let the free market decide, or if you measure the prices of commodity in terms of gold and the fact that technologically it's becoming easier and easier by the day to dig out this stuff out the ground or do or manufacture many of these products, you see that there is a sliding down in terms of gold grams for many commodities, and we are going towards deflation. But still, that doesn't mean that a good company is gonna go belly up. No, if they have many fans, many friends, many people like them, or there's a network effect, or there's a culture, or there is a brand, or Coca-Cola sells much better than no brand diet cola. So I mean, there is that attachment. Ultimately, the consumer is the one who pays for stuff, and that comes into play. Sometimes it doesn't matter how much it costs to produce something. Uh, the 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 network effect, or the culture, or the brand, it determines the price of it. Okay, so but that also doesn't mean that, say for example, you're buying a car $35,000 now, and technologically it has become easier to fabricate the car, and it was like $2,000 to make a car, and then leap in nanotechnology makes it possible to fabricate a car for $300, then yeah, there might be a few manufacturers come around and sell that $35,000 car for like 10 grand or 5 grand or cheaper. Yeah, that can happen, and that's probably the eventual course of events. I probably gave you a very bad headache. But don't worry, I'm a mathematician. I have all this going on in my head all the time. So you're not the only one being tortured, okay? Have a nice day.